Good evening, everyone, and good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. We are back again with this amazing conversation that we're going to be having with some of our amazing country chairs. When I say that, it's really, really important for us to really know how awesome these women are. And the only way that I think that we can really get to know them and what amazing work they do is to actually have a chat with them and then share that chat with everyone of you. Why do we do this? That's the important question to ask. Well, I believe that G100 is an amazing platform, a platform that allows all of us to interact, to connect, and to create with one another. We, as G100 Oneness and Wisdom, are here about helping every lady and every gentleman, too, to spread their wings and fly. But our focus is more on ladies. And that's why today I have joining me an amazing country chair, and she is from the UAE, same place that I come from. So, welcome to the call, our amazing country chair from the United Arab Emirates. And that is Kirsten. Hi, Kirsten. How are you doing today?
Hi, Jennifer. I'm very good, thank you. Very excited to be here, actually.
Yeah, it's so amazing because all of us can really get to know you a little bit more than just having, one-off meeting. And I think, and this is going to be there so that everyone can hear the amazing work you're doing and how you do it, and we can all learn from one another. That's the important part of the whole thing. So before we start off, I'd like to just give a little bit of brief, or rather, let's change it. Why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Of course, happy to do that. So my name is Kirsten Westholter. Probably people can hear it from my accent, but I'm originally from the Netherlands. I've come to Dubai in 2016, so I can say I've been here maybe not long term, but long enough to understand things and also to be really in my place here. Background, business transformation, change management, and always have been working in the corporate world in the Netherlands and a little bit as well here in the UAE. But then actually in my early 40s, and I'm not going to tell you completely my age, but you can maybe guess or count or whatever. I started my first endeavor as an entrepreneur and started a consultancy company. I've been through other companies as a co-founder and currently very much focused on cultural transformations and diversity, equity, and inclusion work as well.
That's really promising. So, Kirsten, what do you think? How do you see the market now? What is going on? Are people more open towards equality, equity, and diversity, and being inclusive in the workforce? How does that work? Is it happening? I have my own experiences,
Yes.
but I'd like to get your take on it.
Yeah, I definitely also have my experiences, and I'm just going to say it as it is and how I see things. Yes, I see things slowly moving, and also from a global perspective, but also here in this region, maybe baby steps in a certain way. But what I also still see, and I don't know if you recognize that, Jennifer, is that a lot of things are still talking, and not enough action there. But I do see some good movements, definitely.
Okay, cool. So we all recognize that. Now, I just wanted to check with you, what kind of actions do you think the market is ready to actually endeavor into? What happens there? Are people open to this? Or, as you say, there's a lot of talk. But how many people want to walk the talk?
Difficult question as well. I do see more and more people willing to do something. But on the other hand, what is very important here, if we look at organizations, and again, I see that globally, we need to also make them understand. And I said, if I say we, these are the advocates, the people who are really like pushing to let leaders understand that it's actually also good for business to be inclusive. And that in the end, if you are diverse and inclusive, also your results will be much better. And that is something I don't think we are there yet, because also often leaders still say like, okay, we will do a project or something like that. It doesn't work, in my opinion. But also, if a company starts from scratch, you need to take them by the hand, and again, baby steps to get somewhere and to understand where are they right now. And I see that as their whole corporate culture, in a fact, where do they want to be, and how are we going to move that needle, and how are we going to involve, I call it the change agents, people in that organization who really want to change.
Okay, so that's a brilliant insight, because I think it's pretty much the same all over. It's just not here, but I think all over. So I still think that people are wanting to do stuff, but they are hesitating to do it. And I think the approach has always been, let's have a quick fix. So when you're talking about projects, it's about, let's have a quick fix and let's see how it works. But as we all know, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Exactly. No, exactly. And you won't see a difference with one action or one project. It is something you need to continuously do to see that change. And actually, I think if you do it continuously, with these small steps, you will see that change, and it makes it easier, because then people also understand that's why we're doing it. So it's also all about communication.
The other thing that I have noticed is that when organizations are looking at taking the people, not only the project or the business. You see, the one thing that I keep seeing is that there's this funny thing still prevalent everywhere, is that let's make profit. But unless the people are not involved in the process of the profit, there's very little that can be done. So what are your views on that? How do you see that if it was to change?
Yes.
What would we need to do differently? Because I'm always looking for, people like you and many others that I've spoken to, for getting insights as to what can we do that will be different, that will spark that excitement into organizations or leaders or people to actually demand this change that is so required. What are one or two things?
Yeah. It's good that you already mentioned the people, the process, and of course it does sound very theoretical, but I do still believe in that triangle, actually, people, process, systems. But for me, the core are these people in the middle, and indeed they need to make it work. What is a good way also to do that is, I always say, also as an external consultant, for instance, use the existing people in an organization. It's very easy also to actually spot the people who are, I call them the change agents, the people who are really willing to change, and let them also come up with ideas, let them run with it as well. But I think we, and if I say we, but that as externals, we need to give the proper guidance and also the insights, how they can make it work. How it would work is also, of course, try to understand each other, and also learn from each other's differences, and have a common goal, I would say, a common objective with your business. And yes, of course, at the end of the day, it is mostly being profitable, having higher profits, etc. but you should be able to do that together with the right mindset.
Okay, which is true. My next question would be, how important is it to actually have the right people on the team? It's very necessary for us to be able to recruit people who share the same vision and the same sort of cultural fitment that will enhance the business. So, are we doing our recruitment properly? Are we having the right people on the bus to drive us in the same direction as to the vision and the mission of the organization? So, do you see that there sometimes maybe a couple of people who oppose what it is, or are reluctant to change, or reluctance to even perceive what it is that the organization might be wanting to achieve?
Of
Have you
course.
experienced that?
Oh, definitely. And in many situations, what I used to do is something I changed over the years. What I used to do, I found it always very disturbing that people were opposing it. But you will always have people against every type of change, whatever it is. If it's cultural change, if it's another transformation, what I used to do is actually giving them too much of a voice. And I've learned over the years that it's way better to give the people more opportunity that are actually willing to change. And this sounds maybe bad or weird, but I do believe that if you have a big change to make in organizations, you're going to lose people on the way because not everyone fits or
I think
wants to.
it is absolutely okay. And I think it's necessary for us to actually look at that from a very pragmatic way of how we operate, is that not everyone would want to jump on the bus with you.
No,
And
no.
organizations need to get that. And it's only the people that you rather have people on the bus that are going to make an impact and take your vision forward than have
Yes.
people that are opposing you. And when we're talking about opposition, it's almost like it's silent opposition. You know? So they won't say anything. They'll sit and they will not do anything. And I've seen that happening um, in various organizations. And it's interesting because I'd like to always bring fun as part of the change, because I believe
Mhm.
that being too serious doesn't really help. And when people can get out of that mindset, as you call it, of having to think that they have a problem or they are the problem,
Mhm.
it's really interesting how we can help them to see that they're not a problem, but what they are is the possibility, and we see it as external consultants, that they would
Mhm.
actually be a brilliant contribution, whereas they
Yes.
don't see it. So it's more about empowering the individuals, I think, as we go along um, with the change that we've got to make. What do you, would I be
I
accurate in saying that?
Yeah, I see that as well. And I must say, indeed, the silent people are the more, that is often the most difficult aspect, because if people speak up, then at least you know things. And sometimes in sessions, indeed, you do see it like just looking at their body language or their face or whatever. So yes, of course. And sometimes it is simply also having a certain dialogue separate with them, because change is scary for a lot of people. And also as a consultant, but also as the leader, you don't have all the answers. And
Definitely not.
leaders also don't always know what the exact end state will be. And I would also say with organizations, it is important to have the right leadership in place that is open, transparent, and also wants to help people, to support, and to make that change.
That is extremely important. Um, the other stuff that I wanted to actually discuss with you, and I actually want to hear your perspective, because you work within the UAE, you've also done work in Saudi Arabia, okay? And I'd
Yes.
love to hear about how open is it in Saudi to be able to do the kind of transformation work that you're doing?
Then I do have to be very open here. The work that I've been doing in Saudi for the last like 4 months has not so much to do with real transformations.
Okay.
It's way more on process improvements in an organization. That doesn't mean that you don't see things, and you can still compare organizations. But to be very, very honest here, I'm dying to like be included in some kind of change there, because a lot of people are eager, and also working with nationals there, you can see they're proud of the era they're living in, and they see the future bright, and I feel excitement there. I do feel that here as well, but it's still different.
I guess different cultures have different ways of expressing excitement. I guess
Sure.
the UAE is highly driven in making it possible, and they are open to change all the time. And I've seen it, and I've worked with organizations that are really, really eager. But it's got to be something of a continuous process, as you mentioned. It makes more sense because, as we said earlier, Rome wasn't built in a day, and changing how people perceive change and transformation is something that I think should be inculcated in every organization, literally. I've been hearing some interesting information about organizations now of having coaches and mentors within the organization. Have you seen anything of that sort happening?
This is an interesting point. I haven't seen that yet, but I must say one of my close connections brought up this topic even this week, and mentioning that her ideal situation would be having like her own business as an entrepreneur, but being part-time, call it an employee, or included in an organization as an internal coach. But I can't speak from experience here.
But I think it's a very brilliant way of actually looking at it, because if we could have that as part of the whole scheme, then most of us who are management consultants and consultants for change and transformation could actually be working with an organization and helping them to transition, because it's not like I'm coming for 2 hours and then I'm going away. So what's happening for the rest of the time? You know what I'm saying?
No, exactly. So and you can even see the change. And that is something I think, speaking for myself, I often would love to see how things are evolving. And usually I can see it just for a part and then I'm out, because then they're moving.
I think that might be a really cool idea. So
I love it.
As
yes.
bringing that into action that we were talking about. So instead of talking only, we're going to bring it into action and actually see what people have to say about it. You and me can have a chat afterwards to see.
Let's do that. Let's do that. I love that. Yes.
I've also noticed that beyond all your professional endeavors that you've had quite a few years in the Netherlands and in the UAE, you also have had something that you call having different facets to your life, which is really interesting. I find that fascinating. And you are and believe in creative expression. And the way that you do it is through the art of poetry. So could you please share with us, because I'm really fascinated. I know a bit about it, but I think the audience would love to hear this amazing skill and talent that you have for creative expression. Please do share that with us.
No, of course, I'll be delighted to. And I also believe that each one of us has something inside, be it poetry or in general writing, could be painting, music. Well, you don't want to hear me playing music, or if I start to sing, I think we are done right now. But for me, poetry is a way of expressing myself, but also a way of dealing with the world and the state the world is in right now. Often my poetry is not even like exact things that I'm experiencing myself, but I really pay very close attention to people around me. I'm very empathetic as well. And often when I had a conversation with someone and certain topics come up, I can easily write about it and it flows, it just flows. I've always had that, but it was a little bit hidden, I would say. It came really to the surface during COVID when Syrian lady here approached me. Firstly, actually asking Kirsten and also other people, do you know people who write poetry? And I was already doing that, but I was actually not even I didn't even think of really positioning myself. So I was talking about someone else, but I knew that this lady would ask money for these type of events. And then I only said something like, by the way, I do write a little bit myself. And the lady was like, oh, please share. And I shared a couple of poems. I must say, I did have to check if these were suitable to share as well, in language, etc. But they were. And she immediately invited me to a poetry night with other people. And what happened there was extraordinary. A lot of people talking about different cultures. I think together with me, there were a couple of other Europeans, but a lot of people, Indian, Arabs, a lot of people performing as well. And I found I could make a connection with people, different cultures as well, just by expressing myself. And at the end of that evening, a professor or assistant professor, an Arab guy, told me, or he was looking at me and he said, Kirsten, I'm impressed and I'm actually very surprised. And I had something like, okay, why are you so surprised? You have so many emotions and you're really like, like showing that. You need to do something with it. And the lady said it as well. Long story short, we wrote a book together. So she wrote a story. I wrote 10 poems to go with the story. And since then, I had something like, I can do something with this, just like apart from my business, but a way of indeed dealing with things, dealing with love, loss, with the things that are happening in the world around us. And last year, it was actually also picked up by some publishers. I did also send, of course, my manuscript, 50 poems. And
later this published, is it?
Later this year it will be published, and it's called Whispers of the Heart. And
beautiful.
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yes.
We must have a poetry reading then to share with the rest of our amazing sisters, so for them to know, because I think expressions, these kind of expressions are so vital, and they actually pull at the strings of someone's heart to make a change and transformation that is so required now. Wonderful. Absolutely. That's really great. So Kirsten, when you have got the corporate side that is going on, and you have this expression going on, I want to know, what do you do to integrate the two for you to relate to both of them, and do you bring that out when you actually are in the corporate world or in the artistic world? Do they overlap, or is Kirsten expression of art and just a corporate person? How do you make it mingle? That's what I want to know.
Yes.
I think people need to actually hear this, Kirsten, because any of us have got this amazing creative aspect about us. And for many, many years, what we do is we hide it.
Yes.
Okay. And we somehow think it's not going to be accepted in the corporate world. And people are going to look at us from, like, what on earth is she doing? I mean, how can she? Okay. So my question to you is, how do you integrate?
And I immediately have to laugh a little bit about this as well. And I'll tell you in a little bit, I'll tell you why. But first of all, at first, I kept it very separate. I really had something like, oh, this hat on, that hat on, and okay. Slowly, it's integrating because also my connections are overlapping. People from the corporate world also are becoming friends. They know about that other side. It actually helped me a lot with connecting to people, with people. And I'm now in the position even that other people, when I'm working in a business, they sometimes introduce me, but in a proud way, like, by the way, she's also a poet. And the reason why I have to laugh is I also received the UAE Golden Visa based on my poetry. Dubai Culture awarded me that.
Yes.
But what a lot of people don't know is that this designation is also mentioned on your Emirates ID and on your visa. So I literally have poet on it. That also means
Wonderful.
if you're like trying to get a visa for Saudi, I'm now working on really get my full business visa. It's getting you into weird situations. And yes, I'm very proud on that, about that aspect, poetry, but it's a bit weird to see on an invitation letter, Kirsten Westholter, passport number, Dutch citizen, poet by designation, is coming to Saudi and whatever, improve processes or do culture. And I'm like, okay. But so I'm also forced into that
No,
situation.
but
But
that's,
maybe it
I
only
think
helps me.
that's the universe trying to tell you it's time to integrate and relate to that.
Yes, yes,
It's so amazing that we're talking about this because I think it is. I experienced that myself. Transitioning from being a hardcore headhunter
yes.
into becoming more of a person who is more about integrating, transforming,
Yeah.
um, you change management, oneness, and wisdom now. So
Yeah.
it's really interesting to see that how people would perceive you in the beginning, because I was always known as Jennifer, the headhunter, okay,
Yes.
and executive coach and all that jazz.
Exactly.
But it is now so amazing to see. And the way that I see it transitioning is that me as the individual is actually being able to bring the stuff. So I bring in the recruitment, the executive search, the management consulting, along with everything, and it actually integrates brilliantly into how it is that we are actually showing up,
Yes.
being authentically who we are, and creating the space of invitation for other people to say, it's not all that bad. We can actually be more than just one thing. I don't understand why. And that's why I say, what if we had different facets? And what if we could make them our appreciable assets?
No, definitely, definitely. And maybe as an addition to this, um, I have someone now in my network who became also quite like a friend, a guy in the UK. Maybe one day, yeah, we could also invite him somehow, but
Absolutely.
he has managed to really integrate poetry into his day-to-day business. So he uses poems, or sometimes indeed like in sessions in organizations, he let that creative spirit
Yes,
flow and people come up with poems. He has the whole, like he calls it poetricity, and that inspires me enormously. I would love to do something like that.
wonderful. Let's invite him over and see, on a call and see how he does it. And why can't
Yes,
we learn to do the same thing? I mean, if poetry is
yes,
your thing, I love to orate. I'm an orator, so I can communicate, and that's why we're
yes.
having this amazing conversation. I truly believe these kind of conversations are door openers for other people to choose something different. Don't you think? Because we're spending, it's almost like we're having a conversation, but once this is shared, everyone is going to go, oh, wow, oh, that's a possibility. We're having people open up the eyes to how they can relate to create and then co create. I think that
Yes,
is something so awesome that we're doing. I,
definitely.
I usually like to ask advice. I'm going to ask you advice, Kirsten.
Mhm.
What do you suggest that we in oneness and wisdom Okay. How do we take oneness and wisdom into the corporate world or into any area? What do you see as the best way forward for people to be open to receiving the one message of oneness and wisdom? How do you see that playing out?
What I think is, it's just one of the ideas, is, of course, we are the Oneness and Wisdom Wing. We have our people, but it would be very good to also try is maybe not the good word, but to enter these organizations, maybe with our friendly, I call it connections, and indeed get interactions there. And also, it is also all about sharing and connecting, but also listening to what other people have to say. And what personally, and I'm sure you are with me, and a lot of others in the wing are definitely also with us. I saw your communication earlier in a WhatsApp too. We do need our allies as well, and we need to have more gentlemen on board. But in a nutshell, we need to spread the word. And I think currently as well, a lot of people maybe outside our group don't know exactly what we're doing, what we're trying to achieve. And indeed, this is also a change which is maybe not going to happen there overnight. But if we are able to have these conversations and meaningful conversations, and this is not about, hey, I'm Kirsten and look at me and I have this business. No,
I think you're very right there. I think the way, and thank you for sharing that, because it's not about promoting the individual. Okay. No. I think our conversations have to be collective. They have to be co-creative. It has to be coming from the space of oneness. It's not about promoting ourselves, because that is who we are as a wing. That is what Dr. Harbeen Arora is amplifying. She goes everywhere to speak that. And we are so fortunate to actually have the very essence and the ethos of what oneness and wisdom is what she believes in.
Yes.
And I feel very honored, to be part of it. And I'm quite sure that you are too, and all of our sisters around the world, because it is about shifting and changing the narrative. And I do it in a way that sometimes wakes people up and shakes people up.
Okay? But that's needed. That's
required.
Needed.
I cannot be walking on eggshells and trying to be so polite. When people need to hear something, they will hear something. So we've started off something, and I'm quite sure you're going to be enjoying that too. And I'd like to have you on that as well. We call it disrupting the status quo.
Okay? Tell me more about that.
and fortunately, we're going to be having 3 gentlemen and 3 ladies in conversation. And the conversation is all about gender biases do exist. What are we going to do now about it?
And when is that one?
It's going to be on the 23rd of March, which is a Saturday at 7:30 in Dubai. We have amazing people who are joining us. So we have Sri Lanka in the house. We have the States in the house. Yes. We have Egypt in the house.
Fantastic.
We have Latin America in the house. So we're taking a perspective of global perspective of, we all understand the gender biases do exist. We get it. Now we want to know, what are we going to do about it? There's going to be a fun conversation. Do join us if you can. I thought I'll drop that in because we need to have those kind of conversations. It's not about everything is hunky-dory, or everything is like, oh, now we are in this situation and now we have to, be desperate about trying to shift or change it. No. We've got to be the change in action, right?
Yes.
And we've got to be the invitation of different conversations. As I keep saying, Our wing is not here to fix anybody. No one is broken.
No.
Our wing is not here to fight anybody. That's not our way of operating. Our wing is not about having to find fault with anybody, because that's not the way that we shift and change things. It's more about becoming aware of everything. That's why we're having these conversations, to become aware of everything and then creating new pathways that will shift and change everything.
Beautiful said.
So I know you're driven to that. I know all of us are. At every level, at every lady that I've spoken to in our wing and outside is so driven by this. It's like, oh my God, what can we do? You know, that kind of stuff. So before we tune off, and I don't want to keep you too long, but if you want, you could stay on. No big deal. Is I always like to ask for our guests to share in the area of expertise. What do we need to look at that will shift and change? How change actually can be acknowledged? How we can change the perspective of people towards change, making it comfortable, and what can we do for actually making change fun? So people don't run away from that, you know. It's about, okay, let me just make it short for you. Share with us what your experience, what you give us as advice for us to even step into the process of change, be it personally, be it professionally, be it as community, be it as in the organization. What would you suggest we do?
I would say always step into things open-minded, open to, again, the other opinions, but also be open for learnings. And if something doesn't run or work out as you had expected to, it's okay. And we find another way. What is also very, I would say, and I say something in addition, yes, you also do need to make it fun and playful. And how can you do that? Many ways. In the past, what have we done in organizations? Also put spotlight on people, for instance, or having kind of, call it modern ID boxes or soap boxes that at a certain time in an organization you have kind of stand-up sessions and anyone can be there. It doesn't matter which position you are. You don't have to be the leader, and share the ideas with a few rules. I don't like rules usually, but a rule would be respectful. Even if you don't like an idea, you don't burn it down, but it's more, how are we going to approach this and how does this work? And with a lot of these ideas, there will be things that people will collectively action, and sometimes they will run on their own. You don't have to do anything around it because it's that enthusiasm that is created. And we did it with regards to a kind of, we all know these leaderboards where, and that's more with profits and revenues, etc., that you can see how well people are doing. Of course, not in this way of change, but maybe in a kind of game of like
Gamify stuff, yeah.
Yes, I love that.
Like I had one of my people on the show as well, and one a dear friend who introduced Lego serious play into the work. Plus, there are a lot of my amazing friends from Sri Lanka as well, who introduce a lot of play and games into shifting and changes.
I have maybe, sorry, Jennifer, maybe before I forget, I do have a good example there,
Okay,
but
sure.
I haven't implemented it myself, but a group of people I'm working with, and they're based in the Netherlands, they came up with it. Apparently, there is now also a new tool, call it a tool, on the market, and it's based on virtual reality. It's a virtual reality glasses, and the game or the play in it is actually people wear it in your session, and they will all be part of a big, and that's one option, leadership team. But what you will see is that you are all transformed into like 50-plus-year-old white guys sitting at the table. But then one lady is at the table who looks also different, etc. And then what is happening? And you do feel it. People start to feel it. Also, the guys in the room start to feel that. And my idea there would be already like, why not come up with other scenarios there and include this?
We have another amazing person who talks about how we can have authentic conversations. There are many people who are not comfortable enough to have a conversation, to say what's going on, because we have those things about being judged, or and then we have to justify our judgment, and then we have to prove that we're right. I think if we can get rid of those three things, things might actually work better. So that's a good thing. Anything else that you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Maybe
some good
question or
good takeaway is to.
Yeah.
I like your idea of what we can do collectively. Very impressed with that.
Yeah.
But to help people to have creative, fun, impacting business is the question.
That would be brilliant. And I'm also pretty sure that in our group, we already have a lot of creative people, but also people indeed who might have it in her or him, but it just needs to like surface a little bit better or a little bit more. And that is indeed okay. And actually it makes us, we are unique, but it even makes us more unique, I would say, if that touch is added.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really inspires me to do this work that we're doing is the fact that across every individual that we have in our wing, we have that ethos of coming together to create something far greater. There is no competition. There is only coming together to complete one another and complete the mission, which I think speaks volumes for the kind of people that we have. And actually, across the G100, if you look at it, you've got some amazing people who are doing some awesome work. And connecting with them is something that is so much fun. And it's about us wanting to learn from one another, teach one another, complete one another, that there is so amazing to actually do. So I don't have anything extra to say other than it's been a pleasure speaking with you and getting to know what you do. And let's catch up and do some brilliant work together. I'm quite sure that all of us can help one another, not only to grow, but to explore as well.
I fully agree. And thank you so much also for this invitation. And I look forward to be creative with each other and come up with brilliant plans. Yeah, and maybe in a little addition is indeed, let's indeed drop that whole box idea. We always still say, oh, let's think outside the box, but let's just throw that box away and think freely. And then a lot of magic can happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's been a pleasure. And ladies and gentlemen, we were speaking to Kirsten, our UAE Country Chair for G100 Oneness and Wisdom. We hope to see you next month with someone also who will be joining us, but I'm going to keep this secret. Okay, so thank you very much, Kirsten. It's been a pleasure. And look after yourself and keep that creative poetry up and running. And looking forward to knowing when the book is going to get published so we can share that with everyone.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much and take care.